Ian Garry, Leon Edwards. I think you love that idea. But guys, we're not going to get that fight without work. Ian Garry does not strike me as the kind of guy. And we're learning a lot about Ian, aren't we? It was fun to tease Ian, but it never made him break. Never even made him change. So now we got him a loss. But there was nothing that we saw at the post-fight press conference that felt like he lost. Like for any hater out there, you probably go, what's it going to take to get this guy? He's sound. Ian's solid, man. That's the truth. He represented himself really very well. I don't believe that Ian is the kind of guy who, if given the offer, would say no. It's a wildly difficult match for both guys. And there would be a level of risk because one of them is going to be 0-2 in their last two. One a world champion, one undefeated. So it also just strikes me as the right fight. We can't pull Ian down the card. He's now shown us how damn good he is. He's a top guy in the world. And there was some issue with Blahal as it pertained to Leon. And Leon is the type of sportsman that just won't reveal those kinds of things. And I'm not talking about there was an injury behind the scenes we didn't know about or a tragedy that he was dealing with grief or his mind was distracted. There was something about the match. There was just something about that match and the way that Leon was fighting, that for the skills, I apologize, the way Blahal was fighting, which was out of his shoes. It's the best that Blahal has ever fought. But there was something about it that for Leon's skills, and see, it's a tough one to ever reveal because everybody's got a kryptonite. Jon Jones, when I tell you everybody has a kryptonite, but it's your job to figure it out. I'm not going to bring it to you. And my point of divulging down that road is Leon could absolutely be the world champion. Leon can beat a lot of guys with the performance he brought against Blahal. It wasn't Leon's fault. It was an offense by Blahal. Blahal had something that Leon doesn't like to deal with. Blahal likely spoke to guys, studied tape, had a good idea of what that something was. But I just share with you, there's more to that match than what your lion eyes told you. There was something with that match up. Kamaru Usman's the same way. Kamaru Usman is so damn good. Leon's got something on him. And he just does. And it's internal. I think from the outside, we can all look at that and say Kamaru's better. I think we can look at the night the head kick was heard around the world and Kamaru Usman was putting a beat down and had come back to do it because the first part of the fight didn't go very well. I mean, right? Kamaru looked awesome that night. In fact, I know that you guys think Kamaru's better than Leon because they fought 3 times and Kamaru was the favorite in all of them, including going into the most recent. But Kamaru has something. There's something. There's a respect and appreciation somewhere where that match is just always going to be a very difficult one. And one thing that Blahal will have greatly achieved at, if he gets through Rakhmonov, is to show that he actually is the best. And our champions are recognized as such, but they seldomly are, and even if they are, it's open for debate because they haven't shown it. There's always someone floating around, no matter how good you are, that could be a potential matchup problem. Khabib. Off limits, the mighty Khabib had to deal with this to a degree because Ferguson emerged. So when you look back, you go, well, you two didn't fight. Now, Khabib was able to get through that because his protege ended up with Ferguson. But that head-to-head competition is very relevant. I will argue for you guys, St. Pierre is the best. Now, I have my own reasons for saying that, but if I had to prove it, right? If we're going to the MMA jury, St. Pierre has something nobody else does, and it wasn't George's doing. I get that. It was happenstance. It was the draw. It was the voice on the other end of the phone, and then time looks back, but he's got it nonetheless. He beat everybody of the era before him. He beat everybody of his era, and he took out the future era. When George beat Johnny and left, and Johnny grabbed that title and went with it, George has now touched 3 eras. So I'm just telling you how important it is, those actual matches, those actual competitions. What happened before you go? Did I do it right? Did I get everybody? Legacy's a weird thing, guys, because it's up to you. A fighter's legacy will be what you decide it is. And there's many fighters that'll go down the box and go, well, they can't say this, and they can't say this, and they won't be able to say this. Oh, yeah, we can say lots of things. You've really got to show us. I mean, it's just one of those things. And it might not be your fault. You might agree to every fight that you ever get offered. You weren't offered the right fights. It was 1 year ago that our community believed Jon Jones would retire before he ever fought Sergey Pavlich. Sergey was the boogie monster. Sergey was the one. That was a year ago. We aren't 1 removed from Sergey. We're 2 and 3. Tom came in. But then there was discussion, and people still really like the Stipe. And don't forget, there was some Alex Pereira talk at one point. Now we're just down to Tom. I understand. But the overshadow of all of that was in the absence of Francis. So, no matter how good you are, there's just things to overcome, and finding those goals, and finding your reason, and finding your why. So, I would like to submit for you Ian Garry going to the fight with Leon. And our greatest way of getting that fight is by calling and asking Ian Garry. Leon has already said yes. Leon has gone, and he's in a very unique spot. He has gone into a main event for a show whose tickets, I believe, are on sale. Leon will stay on the top of that card in a main event, and he knows he's getting a hammer. So Leon's not going to flinch if it's Garry. I can't tell you that Leon's accepted Garry, but I kind of can. Leon has accepted anybody they want to put in that spot. So half your job is already done for you. Now you go, well, what do I want to do with Garry? Do I really want to fly him over there? What if he does get beat? What if he is now 0-2? I don't think Leon is going to come back and be a champion. It's a very rare thing. Garry most likely is a champion in the future. Do I want him to stub his toe now? Or do I want him to take just as big of a risk as he just did, and he came out ahead? Ian Garry's stock went up. Ian Garry became number 15 in the world and went and tattooed 15 on his arm. He was undefeated and young, and everybody was talking him up, and Rogan was a real believer and bringing it to our attention, and Conor was tipping the hat to him. It was one of these things where I watched Ian get that, and I remember thinking, you're better than they're telling you that you are. The day that Ian became 15, he should not have been 15. That very day, he should have been 11. He could have been 10. You couldn't get him all the way to 9, but he should have been 11. And he's in a spot now where he's in the top 4. Now, I don't know what an Ian Garry versus Kamaru Usman fight looks like, but I would imagine it would resemble what we just saw. And Ian Garry versus Leon, while Leon had showed his wrestling in the Colby fight to be a lot better than we were aware, on paper is the same. None. On paper. Neither one of those guys has ever had a wrestling match. I mean, not for nothing. It's a very compelling match. I'm not sure where DraftKings would go with it. I'm not sure where you guys would go with it. When Leon announced that he was fighting and George Masvidal announced that he was back, it seems like we just solved everybody's problem and get them together, but for reasons unknown, they're not, at least of now. In fact, George is going to fight in Miami, according to George. And George is lying and he's trolling and he's having some fun, but it makes sense. The lies and the trolls, they have a way of becoming reality. They make a level of sense. So if we're not going to get Leon or we're not going to get Masvidal together, haven't we solved our problem with Garry? I want Garry to fight Leon, but if you don't, do you have a problem with Leon fighting Masvidal?